Bella Carter was 18, breathtakingly beautiful, and impossible to miss. Her natural sky blue and silver hair shimmered under the light, cascading down her back like threads of liquid silk. Her striking ocean blue eyes, rare and unforgettable, had graced the covers of the world's biggest magazines. She was an award-winning actress and a high-end fashion model. Directors fought for her in their films, fashion brands begged her to walk their runways, and photographers swore no lens could truly capture her beauty. Whenever she stepped into a mall, whispers followed. Strangers pulled out their phones for quick selfies. At airports, fans screamed her name, waving posters and phone cases with her face printed on them. Online, hashtags like #BellaCarter and #BlueHairedGoddess trended within minutes. Her parents were Hollywood royalty: James Carter, the Oscar-winning actor with a deep voice and classic charm, and Victoria Carter, a former supermodel-turned-movie producer. Together, they were the ultimate power couple, loved by the press, envied by colleagues, and known for their flawless public image. Bella had grown up in the middle of it all. Red carpets were normal to her. Private jets were just another way to travel. Designer clothes filled her walk-in closet, arranged by season. She had never stood in a long grocery line, never taken public transportation, never even had to think about money. From the outside, her life was perfect. But on the inside, Bella knew something no one else could truly understand. She had everything, except true love. People didn't treat her like a real person. They treated her like a prize. Even her best friend, Amanda, kept a constant sweet but fake smile, agreeing with everything Bella said and never sharing anything real about herself. It was like being surrounded by mirrors. Everyone just reflected back what they thought Bella wanted to see. Still, Bella had tried to believe in love. She thought she'd found it with Ethan. He was charming, attentive, and claimed he didn't care about her fame. For months, she believed him. Until that night. She had gone over to surprise him with tickets to a music festival. Walking down the hallway to his apartment, she heard his voice through the cracked door. "Dad, relax. I'm not rushing her. Once I have her trust, we can use her parents' connections. You don't just walk into the Carter circle, you marry your way in." The words slammed into her chest. She didn't confront him. She simply walked away, her legs heavy, her throat tight. Back home, she found her mother in the sitting room. Victoria looked up and immediately set her script aside. "Sweetheart? What happened?" Bella collapsed into her mother's arms, tears spilling over. "I thought he loved me. I thought he was different." Victoria held her, stroking her hair. "Oh, my baby. I'm so sorry." For the next hour, Bella sat curled up beside her, her mind replaying Ethan's words until they were etched into her. She wasn't crying over losing him. She was crying because this was her life. Every smile, every kind word, how much of it had ever been real? Somewhere out there, real people were living real lives, free from this glass box of fame. And for the first time, Bella wondered, what if she could be someone else? The next morning, Bella woke up with the heaviness of the previous night still pressing on her chest like a weight she couldn't shrug off. She lay still for a while, staring at the faint streaks of light creeping across her ceiling. Outside, the low hum of traffic was softened by the thick glass windows, but the distant sound of the city waking up still seeped in. She rolled over and saw the familiar sight, the glow from the city skyline spilling through her sheer curtains, bouncing off the mirrored surface of her silver vanity and the rows of framed magazine covers lining the walls. Usually, that view gave her a rush of pride, a reminder that she had built something extraordinary. Today, it felt suffocating. Each glossy photo, each flawless smile, seemed to be watching her, reminding her of the role she played rather than the person she was. She needed to get out. By late afternoon, she had made up her mind. Bella pulled on a soft, oversized hoodie and a pair of faded jeans, clothes she rarely wore unless she was trying to be invisible. She tied her hair in a loose ponytail, tugged the hood over it, and slid on sunglasses big enough to hide half her face. No designer handbag, no sparkly accessories. Just a crossbody bag and sneakers. She told her security team she wanted to take a drive. "Give me space. she'd said firmly, making them promise to follow at a distance. They didn't love the idea, but they obeyed. Minutes later, she was settled in the back seat of her sleek black SUV, her driver navigating away from the manicured streets she knew so well. The tinted windows had always been her barrier from the outside world, but today she rolled one down. A rush of warm air swept in, carrying the scent of street food, roasted corn, fried snacks, something sugary she couldn't quite place. For the first time in weeks, she felt a little more alive. And then she saw them. A group of teenagers, maybe 16 or 17, walking home from school in matching pink and white uniforms. Their blazers were a soft blush pink with a crisp, white crest embroidered on the pocket. The girls' skirts swayed just above their knees as they walked, while the boys wore trousers that looked just a little too big, as if handed down from older brothers. Shirts were untucked, ties loosened, and the group moved in a cluster that pulsed with easy energy. Two boys at the front were laughing so hard they had to hold onto each other, their faces lit with unfiltered joy. One of them almost tripped over the edge of the pavement, which only made them laugh harder. A girl walked a few steps behind, casually eating chips from a crinkling packet, her other hand scrolling through her phone. Another girl had her blazer tied around her waist, her hair slightly messy in a way that looked effortless, not styled. They looked so alive, messy, carefree, unposed. No cameras, no stylists, no bodyguards. Just kids being kids. Bella's chest tightened. She imagined herself among them, walking with her backpack slung over one shoulder, gossiping about teachers, swapping snacks, and laughing about something silly that had happened in class. No one asking for autographs. No one judging her outfit for the front page of a gossip blog. No one treating her like a brand. She thought about the last time she had walked home from anywhere. She couldn't remember. The SUV slowed at a red light, giving her a few more seconds to watch them. She wondered if they had exams coming up, if they had crushes they whispered about, if they complained about homework in group chats at night. She wondered what it felt like to have friends who didn't care about fame, friends who liked you just because you were you. When the light turned green and the SUV moved forward, Bella's eyes stayed locked on the group until they disappeared from view. The city's noise returned to her ears. Honking horns, bus engines, the faint blare of music from a shop, but it all felt muted. By the time they turned the next corner, she couldn't shake the image. It lingered in her mind like a dream she wasn't ready to wake from. For the first time in her life, Bella Carter realized she had never truly been a normal teenager. And for the first time, she wondered if it was too late to try. That night, Bella lay awake, staring at the faint glow of the city lights bleeding through her curtains. Sleep was impossible. Her mind kept replaying the image of those school kids, messy hair, carefree laughter, no cameras in sight. She could almost hear their voices, light and unburdened, so different from the polished conversations she'd been trained to have. The longer she thought about it, the more restless she became. Every hour that passed made the walls of her room feel smaller, the air heavier. She knew what she wanted, and she knew her parents would never approve. They would tell her it was too dangerous, that she couldn't just vanish into an ordinary life without protection. Her mother would give her the "you're too famous for this" talk, while her father would calmly list the risks in that low, careful voice that always made her feel like a little girl. But this time, she didn't want permission. She wanted freedom. If she couldn't get it by asking, she'd take it. By mid-morning the next day, she was ready. Bella slipped out through the service gate, dressed in the least noticeable clothes she owned, a loose sweater and jeans. A baseball cap was pulled low over her head, shadowing her face, and oversized sunglasses hid most of what the cap didn't. She even wore a disposable mask for good measure. Her driver thought she was just running errands and dropped her a few blocks away from the shopping district. Once she was sure no one was following, she ducked into a thrift store sandwiched between a nail salon and a pawn shop. The bell above the door jingled, and the smell of old fabric and dust greeted her. It was nothing like the boutiques she usually visited. No sleek lighting, no perfume in the air, no sales associate following her around with flattering commentary. Just racks of clothes crammed together, shoes in mismatched pairs, and bins full of tangled accessories. Perfect. She ran her fingers over worn denim until she found a pair of faded jeans that looked like they had survived countless school days. She added an oversized hoodie in a washed-out gray and a pair of slightly scuffed sneakers. Then, in the accessories bin, she found it, the thing that would change everything. A long, curly wig in an impossible shade of bubblegum pink. It wasn't sleek or expensive. It was the kind of wig you'd find at a school costume party, which made it perfect. Digging deeper, she found a small case of cheap black contact lenses. Not her usual high-quality ones for photo shoots. These were the kind sold at street fairs, the kind no one would ever expect Bella Carter to wear. At the counter, the older woman ringing her up didn't even glance twice at her. She paid in cash, shoved everything into a thrift store paper bag, and slipped back out into the street. Back home, she locked her bedroom door and set the bag on her bed. First, she braided her signature silver hair and pinned it close to her scalp. Then she slid on a wig cap, tucking away every strand. When she pulled the pink curls over her head and adjusted them, the change was already startling. Next came the contacts. She leaned over the mirror, blinking against the unfamiliar sensation as her ocean blue eyes darkened to a deep, unremarkable brown. She stepped back. The girl staring back from the mirror was no red carpet darling, no cover model, no beloved starlet. She was ordinary. And for the first time in her life, Bella Carter found ordinary beautiful. That night, she moved quickly. She packed a plain backpack with just the essentials, 2 changes of clothes, her disguise, a few toiletries, a bundle of cash she'd hidden away, and a small framed photo of her parents from years ago, before the fame and the empire. At midnight, when the house was silent and the security cameras were fixed on the front gates, she pushed open her window. The night air was cool against her face as she climbed onto the balcony, gripping the trellis the gardeners used for trimming vines. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the thrill of what she was doing. When her feet hit the grass below, she didn't look back. By morning, she was slouched in the window seat of a long-distance bus. The city skyline faded in the distance, replaced by rolling fields and unfamiliar roads. Somewhere out there was a place where she could live without cameras, without scripts, without expectations. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew it wasn't back to her old life. The bus ride had been long, but it gave Bella something she hadn't had in years, time to think without anyone interrupting. By the time she stepped off in a mid-sized city 3 states away from Los Angeles, she had a plan. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even fully thought out. But it was hers. She wandered through quiet streets lined with small businesses, family-owned cafes, thrift stores, and corner bookstores with sun-faded signs. The smell of fresh bread drifted out of a little bakery, drawing her in. By some stroke of luck, the elderly woman behind the counter had a vacant studio apartment upstairs for rent. It was tiny, just 1 room, a kitchenette, and a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, but Bella loved it instantly. The hum of ovens below would be her alarm clock. The air smelled of sugar and cinnamon. Her first order of business was school. She needed something that gave her structure, something to anchor her in this unfamiliar life. Using a combination of forged paperwork, a doctored birth certificate, and her mother's maiden name, she enrolled in Westfield Academy. The uniform requirement sealed the deal. She'd blend in instantly. That morning, she stood in front of her apartment mirror, dressed in the school's signature pink and white uniform. The blush pink blazer was fitted and lined with gold piping along the edges, the school crest stitched neatly above her heart. Beneath it, a crisp white blouse tucked into a pleated skirt that brushed the middle of her thighs. Matching these socks and black loafers completed the look. Her disguise, now her new face, was in place. The long, curly pink wig, the dark contact lenses. No trace of the girl plastered on billboards remained. She looked ordinary, just like the other girls she'd seen that day outside the car window. Her new name rolled around in her head like a pebble she was getting used to. Olivia West. It felt strange but freeing. The school building itself was a brick structure with ivy crawling up its sides, its tall windows gleaming in the morning sun. Students milled around the courtyard, laughing, trading snacks, and leaning against lockers. No one stopped her for selfies. No one whispered her name. Inside, the hallways buzzed with chatter and the sharp clang of locker doors. The faint scent of pencil shavings and floor polish hit her, so different from the perfume-clouded air of film sets. She followed the numbers on the doors until she found room 2B. The moment she stepped inside, she felt dozens of eyes flick toward her. Some curious, some indifferent. Jessica Myers noticed her immediately. Bella didn't need an introduction to know the type. Every school had a Jessica. Her posture screamed authority, her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She sat in the center of the classroom like a queen on her throne, flanked by her loyal court. But it wasn't Jessica who greeted her first. From the second row, a girl with soft brown curls and bright hazel eyes waved so enthusiastically it almost startled Bella. "You can sit next to Grace," the teacher said, scanning the seating chart before gesturing toward the open desk beside the brunette. Bella slid into the seat, feeling the weight of Jessica's gaze from across the room, sharp, assessing, like a predator sizing up potential prey. Grace leaned in the moment Bella's bag hit the floor. "I love your hair," she whispered, her voice bubbling with genuine excitement. "It's so pretty. You have to try out for the cheer squad. You'd be perfect." Bella blinked, caught off guard by the warmth in her tone. "Thanks," she murmured, keeping her voice low. Jessica, however, said nothing. She simply tilted her head, studying Bella with a faint, knowing smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And just like that, Bella understood. Her new life might be free from paparazzi, but high school had predators of its own. Jessica Myers wasn't used to competition. She had ruled Westfield Academy for 2 solid years, head cheerleader, homecoming queen, president of the student council. Everyone knew her, and more importantly, everyone knew better than to cross her. So when Olivia West walked into her first period class with that pink hair, those wide brown eyes, and a quiet confidence that didn't need to be loud to be noticed, Jessica felt the shift immediately. It was subtle, but she could see the glances, the curious whispers. Someone new had entered her kingdom, and that someone had the potential to draw attention away from her. It didn't matter that Olivia was polite. It didn't matter that she hadn't done anything yet. In Jessica's world, potential threats had to be eliminated before they became real problems. The confrontation happened 2 days later. Olivia was at her locker, sliding her textbooks into her bag, when a shadow fell over her. She glanced up to see Jessica standing there, arms crossed, flanked by her 2 ever-present followers, Sophie, with her icy blonde bob, and Kelsey, who seemed to smile only when Jessica did. Jessica's tone was calm, almost casual, but there was steel underneath. "I don't know who you think you are," she said, her voice pitched low enough that only the 4 of them could hear, "but you don't belong here." Olivia arched an eyebrow, keeping her hands busy with her locker door. "Excuse me? You heard me." Jessica took a small step closer, her perfume, a sharp, floral scent, cutting through the faint smell of floor cleaner in the hallway. "Leave this school, or I'll make your life hell." There was no shouted insult, no dramatic scene. Jessica didn't need theatrics. Her power came from the certainty that she could make good on every word. Olivia's pulse quickened, but she refused to give Jessica the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. She calmly shut her locker, slung her bag over her shoulder, and stepped past them without a word. The hallway seemed louder after that, as if the other students could sense the invisible line that had just been drawn. Later, at lunch, Grace found her at one of the outdoor tables. She plopped down with a tray and leaned in. "So, Jessica talked to you." Olivia gave her a sidelong glance. "If you can call it talking." Grace sighed, stabbing her fork into a piece of lettuce. "She's territorial. Thinks the school revolves around her. And she really doesn't like it when someone prettier, cooler, or more talented shows up." Olivia smirked faintly. "And I'm what?" "All 3. Grace grinned. "Let's just say she's been head cheerleader for a while, and she's already hearing people say you should try out. Which, by the way, you should. You'd be amazing." Olivia sipped her water, weighing the idea. She hadn't planned on joining anything, keeping her head down seemed smarter. But something about Jessica's challenge lit a spark she didn't know she still had. "Fine," Olivia said finally, setting her cup down. I'll try out. Grace's eyes widened. You're serious? Completely. Jessica had made her move. Now it was Olivia's turn. Cheer tryouts were nothing like Olivia expected. She had imagined a few stretches, a simple routine, maybe some clapping and chants. Instead, the gym pulsed with music, echoing off the high ceilings, and the energy was electric. Girls in matching practice uniforms moved with sharp precision, their sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Jessica, of course, stood at the center of it all, leading the warm-up with perfect posture and a fixed smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Olivia kept to the side, stretching quietly, but when the music started and the coach called her forward, instinct took over. Years of professional dance training flooded back. Her body moved effortlessly, sharp where it needed to be, fluid in transitions. Every jump hit cleanly, every landing was soft, every spin controlled. When the song ended, the gym fell silent for a beat too long. Then the coach clapped her hands together. Now that's what I'm talking about. Olivia, you've got real talent. A murmur ran through the squad. Jessica's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed just slightly, the corners of her smile tightening. By the end of practice, the coach had pulled Olivia aside. I want you on the team. We'll finalize it after a few more sessions, but you're exactly what we need. Olivia thanked her, trying to play it cool, but inside, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time, pride in her own skill, not just her image. After changing out of her uniform, she lingered in the gym to watch the basketball team practice. The sound of bouncing balls and sneakers skidding on the court was oddly comforting. She was just leaning against the bleachers when it happened. A ball ricocheted off the rim and flew straight toward her head. Before she could even react, a tall figure stepped in, catching it one-handed with easy grace. Whoa, close one, he said, his voice warm and amused. You okay? Olivia blinked, startled, then nodded. He grinned, holding the ball under one arm. I'm Kevin. There was something open and straightforward about him, no calculated charm, no flicker of recognition like he knew her from a magazine cover. Just a boy meeting a girl in a gym. From that day, Kevin seemed to appear everywhere. At lunch, he slid into the seat across from her and Grace, asking casual questions about her classes. In the hallways, he'd match her pace, telling her funny stories about his teammates. After practice, he'd walk her partway home, insisting the streets were too quiet to walk alone. Jessica noticed, and she didn't like it. One rainy Thursday, Olivia found herself in trouble. Someone had accidentally spilled a bottle of black ink onto the teacher's upholstered desk chair, and when the class returned from lunch, the mess was discovered. The teacher's sharp gaze went straight to Olivia. I didn't. She started, but Jessica, standing in the corner with her arms folded, just smirked. Before the accusation could stick, Kevin stepped forward. It was me, he said calmly. The teacher frowned. You. Yeah. I was refilling my pen, and it tipped over. My fault. He said it so casually, so convincingly, that the teacher moved on with only a warning. When the room cleared, Olivia turned to him. You didn't have to do that. Kevin shrugged. Didn't seem fair. Besides, he grinned. I've been in enough trouble already this semester. What's one more? She stared at him for a moment, trying to read his expression. There was no angle, no expectation. He had stepped in simply because he wanted to help. For Olivia, it was the first time in a very long time that someone had protected her without expecting anything in return. And that made Kevin dangerous, not in the way Jessica was, but in the way that scared her more. Because part of her wanted to trust him. The weeks that followed blurred into a rhythm Olivia hadn't realized she'd been craving. Kevin became a constant, an anchor in a life she was still piecing together. They weren't just crossing paths anymore. They were making plans. Saturday afternoons were spent stretched out on the grass at Willow Park, sharing greasy paper bags of fries and milkshakes from the diner down the street. Sometimes they tossed a basketball around. Other times they just lay on their backs watching clouds drift by, making up ridiculous shapes in the sky. Kevin always had a knack for finding the strangest ones, clouds that looked like pancakes or dinosaurs with top hats. On colder evenings, they'd duck into Tony's Diner, a tiny place with checkered floors and a jukebox in the corner. Kevin always ordered burgers. Olivia went for milkshakes, and they'd sit in a booth by the window watching the world go by. There was something about the ordinariness of it that made Olivia feel safe, like she could breathe without pretending to be anyone else. Every so often, Kevin would drag her to the old movie theater on Main Street. It smelled faintly of popcorn and dust, and the seats creaked when you leaned back. They never showed new releases, just black and white classics and the occasional cheesy 80s romance. Kevin would lean over halfway through and whisper sarcastic commentary that made her laugh until her stomach hurt. It was after one of Kevin's basketball games that everything shifted. The team had won, and the gym was still buzzing with post-game energy. Students crowded the court, congratulating players, snapping photos. Olivia had been waiting near the bleachers, cheering when Kevin spotted her and made his way over, still sweaty from the game. "Hey," he said, a little breathless. "Hey yourself. Nice game," she teased. He hesitated for a second, then glanced around as if to make sure no one else was listening. "So, I was thinking maybe you could, be my girlfriend." Olivia blinked, caught off guard. "That's your big romantic line?" He grinned. "I'm more of a straightforward guy." Something about his honesty made her chest feel warm. "Okay," she said softly. "Yes." From behind them came a squeal that could only belong to Grace. She had been loitering nearby, pretending to scroll through her phone, and now she practically skipped over. "Finally. I was wondering how long it would take you to." Olivia laughed, a little embarrassed, but Kevin just shook his head in amusement. The three of them left the gym together, their voices mingling with the fading cheers inside. For the rest of the weekend, Olivia felt lighter, almost giddy. She had a boyfriend. Not a publicity stunt, not a co-star for a tabloid romance. Just a boy who liked her for her. But happiness has a way of drawing attention, and not all of it good. Jessica heard the news in the worst possible way, by overhearing two sophomores in the hallway gushing about how cute Olivia and Kevin are together. The words lodged like splinters under her skin. It wasn't just that Kevin was the captain of the basketball team, or that he was good-looking. It was the fact that he'd chosen Olivia, a girl who'd waltzed into Westfield Academy barely a month ago and was already threatening her position as the center of attention. Jessica's smile stayed in place as she walked past them, but inside, something sharp and calculating was already taking shape. She had learned long ago that the best way to destroy someone wasn't to confront them directly, it was to quietly pull away the ground beneath their feet. That afternoon, she sat at her desk, scrolling through her phone until she found the number she needed. "Mr. Kane," she said when the voice answered. "Yes, I need you to look into someone for me. Her name's Olivia West. I want to know everything, where she came from, who she really is, and anything she's hiding." If Jessica was going to get rid of her rival, she wasn't going to rely on high school gossip. She wanted facts. She wanted leverage. And she was willing to pay for it. The annual Westfield Academy Fall Party was the social event of the semester. It was part school fundraiser, part fashion parade, and part unspoken competition for who could turn the most heads. Olivia had been hesitant about going. Parties still carried that faint tang of the celebrity world she was trying to escape, but Grace had insisted. "You have to come," she'd said, practically bouncing in her seat at lunch. "And we are getting you the perfect dress." So on Saturday, Olivia, Grace, and Kevin met up downtown, starting their hunt at a row of boutiques known for their formal wear. Kevin tagged along, though he made it clear he was mostly there to carry bags and give the occasional "looks nice" when asked for input. The third boutique they entered was quieter than the rest, with plush chairs, gold-framed mirrors, and racks of silk and chiffon. Grace immediately disappeared into the racks, pulling dresses she declared absolutely you and totally wrong for you, with equal decisiveness. Olivia slipped into a cream-colored gown with delicate lace along the sleeves. The fabric clung just right, and for a moment, she almost forgot about Jessica, the party, or the fact that she wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. That moment didn't last. The fitting room door creaked open just enough for someone to slip inside without knocking. Olivia froze when she saw Jessica in the mirror's reflection, her eyes cool and sharp. "Nice dress," Jessica said smoothly, stepping closer. "Shame if something happened to it." Before Olivia could react, Jessica's fingers curled into the fabric at the side seam. With one quick, deliberate tug, the lace ripped from the waist down, the sound impossibly loud in the small space. Olivia's breath caught. "What is your problem?" Jessica smirked, letting the torn fabric fall. "You are." She turned on her heel and left, the door swinging shut behind her. Olivia stood there for a moment, her pulse hammering in her ears. Anger prickled beneath her skin, but she forced herself to breathe, to stay calm. Jessica wanted a reaction, and she wasn't going to get one. Unfortunately for Jessica, Grace had seen her slip out of the fitting room. And Grace wasn't calm. When Olivia stepped out in her ripped dress, Grace's jaw tightened. She didn't say a word, just marched straight to where Jessica was pretending to admire a row of evening gowns. In one smooth motion, Grace picked up the half-empty glass of red wine from the boutique's refreshment table and tipped it forward. The deep crimson liquid cascaded over Jessica's pristine white designer dress, blooming across the fabric like a violent flower. Jessica gasped, staring down at the spreading stain. "Are you insane?" "Oops," Grace said sweetly, not even trying to sound apologetic. "Guess accidents happen." Kevin, who had witnessed the whole thing from across the store, pressed his lips together, clearly fighting back a laugh. Olivia felt a rush of gratitude toward Grace, though she also knew this would only make Jessica more dangerous. The boutique staff scrambled to clean up, but Jessica left in a fury, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. That night, as rain pattered against her apartment window, Jessica sat cross-legged on her bed, still seething. She had replayed the scene a dozen times, each replay tightening the knot in her chest. Her phone buzzed. The number on the screen was one she'd saved under a single letter, K. She answered. "Tell me you have something." The voice on the other end was low, steady, and all business. "Olivia West isn't who she claims to be." Jessica's smirk returned, slow and dangerous. "Go on." The fall party glittered with fairy lights strung across the gym, casting everything in a warm, golden glow. Round tables covered in white linen were arranged around the dance floor, where students swayed to music from the hired DJ. A buffet table groaned under trays of pastries and finger foods, and a giant ice sculpture of the school crest glistened in the corner. Olivia, in a soft blush pink gown that matched the school colors, felt almost normal. Grace was a whirlwind of excitement, pulling her into dances, introducing her to people, and making sure she had a plate of food in hand at all times. Kevin, in a tailored navy suit, stayed close, slipping his arm around her waist when the music slowed. For the first time since arriving in this new city, Olivia let herself relax. She laughed without worrying how it would look in photos. She danced without thinking about choreographed perfection. Tonight wasn't about Bella Carter, Hollywood star, it was about Olivia West, a regular teenage girl enjoying a school party. And then the music stopped. The sudden silence sent a ripple of confusion through the crowd. Heads turned toward the entrance, where Jessica stood framed in the double doors, her white gown shimmering under the lights. But it wasn't the dress that made Olivia's stomach clench. It was the phone Jessica held up like a trophy. "I think everyone should see this." Jessica's voice rang out, cutting through the murmur of voices. She tapped the screen, and the video began playing on the massive projector the DJ had been using for light displays. Olivia's breath caught. The footage was grainy but clear enough, her own reflection in her apartment mirror, hands pulling the pink wig from her head, revealing the silver blue waves beneath. A close-up of her eyes as she popped out the dark contacts, ocean blue flashing under the light. Gasps echoed through the gym. Whispers spread like fire. Jessica stepped forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. In one swift motion, she closed the distance between them and yanked at Olivia's hair. The wig came free, tumbling to the ground. "Meet Bella Carter," Jessica announced, her voice dripping with satisfaction. A stunned hush fell over the room, broken only by the flurry of phones being raised. Screens lit up like a swarm of fireflies, recording every angle of Olivia's unmasking. Kevin moved instantly, stepping in front of her, but it was too late. The damage was done. Somewhere in the crowd, the double doors opened again. This time, it was her parents. James Carter in a sharp black suit, Victoria Carter in an elegant emerald gown. Their eyes swept the room, finding her immediately. Relief flickered across their faces, followed by an emotion she couldn't quite name, pride, maybe, mixed with something heavier. Victoria's voice was soft but firm. Bella. The sound of her real name, spoken by her mother, was like a final curtain falling. The fragile wall she'd built between her old life and her new one crumbled in an instant. The gym buzzed with questions, with speculation, with awe. Olivia, Bella, could only stand there, frozen, as her secret was swallowed whole by the room and broadcast on every phone. Her life as Olivia West was over. The mansion was as grand as ever, crystal chandeliers glowing in the high-ceilinged foyer, marble floors gleaming under her shoes, the faint scent of roses from the arrangements her mother kept in every room. But to Bella, it felt colder than usual. She had changed out of the party gown hours ago, yet she still felt the weight of the evening pressing against her ribs. The flashing phones, the gasps, and most of all, Grace's stunned expression, Kevin's furrowed brow. They hadn't known. They'd befriended Olivia West, the new girl with the pink curls and shy smile. They hadn't signed up for Bella Carter, the most photographed teenager in the world. Sleep was impossible. By morning, she knew what she had to do. Grace's house was only a few blocks from the school. Bella wore no makeup, no disguise, just a sweater and jeans. Her natural silver blue hair spilled down her back, catching the early sunlight. Grace opened the door in pajamas, her curls a little messy, her eyes wary. "Oh, it's you." Bella took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology. A big one." Grace crossed her arms, but didn't shut the door. "I didn't mean to lie to you," Bella began. "When I came here, I wasn't trying to trick anyone. I needed a life that wasn't full of cameras and expectations. I wanted to know what it felt like to be normal. And I thought if people knew who I really was, it would ruin everything." Grace's gaze softened, but her voice stayed even. "It wasn't the secret, Bella. It's that you didn't trust me enough to tell me." "I know." Bella's throat tightened. "And I'm sorry. For real. If I could go back, I'd do it differently." For a long moment, Grace just studied her. Then, with a sigh, she stepped back and gestured for Bella to come in. "It's going to take me a while to get over it," Grace admitted as they sat at her kitchen counter. "But I get it. Sort of. And I still like you, even if you're secretly the most famous teenager on the planet." A smile broke across Bella's face, small but genuine. "Thank you." They decided to visit Kevin together. When he opened the door, he looked between them, his expression unreadable. Bella's stomach nodded. "I owe you the truth," she said, and told him everything, how she'd left home, how she'd created Olivia West, why she'd stayed silent even as they grew closer. Kevin listened without interrupting, leaning against the doorframe. When she finished, he rubbed the back of his neck. "So, let me get this straight. You're a world-famous actress, and you were just hanging out in my gym after practice like it was no big deal?" Bella winced. "Pretty much." A slow smile tugged at his lips. "Next time, just tell me. Saves me the trouble of finding out from a jealous cheerleader." Then, to her surprise, he pulled her into a hug. It was warm and steady, without any of the hesitation she'd feared. And in that moment, Bella realized something. For the first time in years, she wasn't being hugged because she was a star, or because a camera was waiting. She was being hugged because she was her. Not Bella Carter, the celebrity. Just Bella, the girl with friends who saw her for who she really was.